Adat Netzer Yisra'il presenta Yisra'il TV, canal 26.3, Los Ángeles, California, uniendo pueblos. Adat Netzer Yisra'il presenta
Shalom to you all. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm Moreh Rapha'Yah. Once again, we are happy to come to this day in another special event, live conference, we are bringing another Torah teaching about the great mystery of the Babylon the Great. And if you guys been watching for the past several days, the invitation I've been giving to all of you, and to kind of have an idea of this great mystery, it's something that it's very, very staggering, because we kind of know that these things are happening to around us, and yet we just kind of don't know what's going on. But through the scriptures we can pretty much find out what's going on with the system that we live into. Remember that everything that happens around us is for a reason, and everything is already prophesied through the scriptures. The system that we live into, the pagan system, is getting worse and worse as we speak. We cannot compare today what was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago perhaps, but everything's getting worse and worse, and into the open. People doesn't have any shame anymore, and it is the great Babylon, and whether we accept it or not, this is the system that we live into. So welcome once again, Moreh Rapha'Yah, and wanted to thank all of you who are watching live conference. And I don't want to take too much time, but I do want to say thank you for all those who are watching. Kiles in Puerto Rico, Sakaya in Texas, Sam in Africa, and many, many more. Mona in France or England. Thank you for all of you for watching this great event conference. But let's get into it. What is the great mystery of Babylon? It's one of the greatest mystery that perhaps that we might not know, or maybe we know a little bit, but not to the fullest. Today we will bring a full disclosure into what the great mystery Babylon is. And please buckle your seatbelts, because this is going to be a ride. I always like to bring something so you guys can dig in, do your own research, and so we can be aware of the system that we live into. The scriptures doesn't lie at all. Yahweh, our Creator, does not lie into the system that we live into. Remember what the Ecclesiastes 1:9 says: what it was, it will be again. So there is no lie on what the things are the events that we are witnessing as we speak. The Proverbs 25:2 states, the kabod, or the steam of the Almighty, is to conceal the matter, but the kabod, or the steam of the king, is to search out the matter. So in other words, it is our responsibility to find out what it is. What our Creator conceals the matter, but it is our responsibility to search for it. And nevertheless, in this stage and age where a lot of things are evolving and before our own eyes, and we cannot lie, we cannot deny ourselves that these end of times are getting worse and worse, just as the scriptures describe, just as the Mashiach describes these events. The evildoers are right in front of our own eyes, and the system that is making this happen. So let's get into it. It is our responsibility, but also It is our own fault. Look at what Hosea or Hosea 4:6 says. My people perish because, or for the lack of knowledge, because you have rejected knowledge. So it is partly our fault because we don't want to learn knowledge. We don't want to learn Torah. All this time we've been rejecting what was once life. Torah is life for all of us. Is knowledge. Knowledge is power. Power is life. So by that, our Creator says that we have rejected this, and the reason for it is because we've been accustomed to the pagan society, pagan system that we've been fed on from since we were kids. Our forefathers dragged into this pagan knowledge, and it's been passed on through generations and generations. So that's partly the reason for it. But it is our responsibility that knowledge can be obtained again. Look at what's going on today, and it's been going on for years and years. 2 Corinthians 2:11, so Satan does not take advantage of us, he says, because we know his devices. We know how he works. Shaul, back in those days, he knew how Satan works. He knew that paganism was around him. He knew that homosexualism was around him. All kinds of pervert things were around him, much more today. So, like I said, there is no difference between back in those days to today. The only thing is the technology has advanced, and that's why we kind of get to know these things. But in reality, it's basically the past is repeating itself, just as back in those days, or even worse. So that's basically what the system that we are living to. The prophets, Yeshayahu or Isaiah, Jeremiah or Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Shaul, Yohanan, Yahushua or Mashiach spoke about these things. But once again, because we've been immersed into Christianism and some other false religions that don't literally lead to anything but death, and so it is our time to come back to Torah. It is our time to repent, to turn around. The word to repent means to do the teshuvah, to turn around and go back where you belong to, which is Torah. It is our time to go back to our Creator, just as the prodigal son that actually sinned, remember, and he wanted to go back to the Father. Same thing as the northern kingdom is going back again to the Father. So I will be talking another time about that. But today, once again, we are immersed into this prophecy that is really, really powerful. And if we don't know these things, we are literally blind. So it is our responsibility to get to know these things. So these prophets talk about all these things. Why the United States does not appear or spoken by the congregations today? That should be the question today. Why? Because we congregations that speak about the other countries, so many countries around, but nevertheless, the United States is never on the picture. Why? And there is a great reason for it. So let's get into it. Rome was always referred as the Great Babylon too. In the first century, it was also referred as Babylon. And let's go into the reason for it, because all this, the system that Rome followed was basically the same system that Babylon actually followed. And let's go into the first of Peter or Kepha 5:13. Look at what it says here: the chosen congregation in Babylon. What? Babylon? He was referring to Rome. Rome was always referred as Babylon. Rome was almost the same as you have to have a citizenship to become Roman. In other words, you could be from another country, but if you don't obtain your citizenship, you would not be a Roman. You would not have your privilege. Shaul will have a privilege of being Roman because he have a half and half. But that's another topic. Going back again, Kepha or Shaul here is referring to Rome as Babylon. And that's another example how this system was chosen at that time. And the empire of Babylon was a very great, vast empire that pretty much took a lot of power and a lot of everything. And it is very important for us to understand that Babylon, the system that was back in those days, was very it was very powerful indeed. The leader that at that time in Babylon had the upper hand in everything was Nimrod. Now let's go into what the characteristics of Babylon are, because in order for us to understand, to pinpoint who is Babylon today, we have to understand the symptoms, the characteristics. How is she today? If we know the characteristics, we basically are going to pinpoint who in the reality is this great Babylon. And we'll be shocked, unbelievable, who is this Babylon that the scriptures talks about this entire time. So let's get into it. Isaiah 47 verse 1, or Yisra'il 47 1, the virgin daughter of Babylon. It is described as the virgin daughter of Babylon, sit on the earth as a throne, is the daughter of the Chaldeans, is the daughter of the Babylon, but also is considered the daughter of the Chaldeans. This is very important because here is where we're getting to know a little bit about this Babylon. Babel is exalted as the lady of the kingdoms. Do you see that? Babel is exalted as, or its title is exalted as the lady of the kingdoms. Here is very important clue because that doesn't say kingdom. It says kingdoms in plural. That means it's referring to many more, not just as well as her. And this is a very key important clue to understand who is this great whore Babylon. She also is the youngest and the superpower around the world. Isaiah 47, Revelation 18. Now, we getting to know little by little who is this great Babylon. She is referred once again, and let's just to summarize, as the Lady of Kingdoms and also the youngest and superpower around the world. Revelation 17:8, and the woman whom you saw is a great city. Do you see that? Do you see that? Having a dominion over the kings of the earth. Once again, she's a woman. That's the first one. And it's a great city having a dominion over the kings of the earth. Now, we getting to know little by little who's this great Babylon. He's a superpower. He's a woman having a dominion of this. If we saw it earlier, of kings and kings around the earth. So this is very important information to understand who is this great Babylon. She is the exaltation of nations in astonishment. Jeremiah 51 and Revelation 18. Now we getting to know who is she. What does the nations see as far as this great Babylon, and what they do which exalt this great Babylon. Babylon is a democracy given by a great government. You see that? Babylon is a democracy given by a great great government. Yeshayahu or Isaiah 47:13, it says, "You are weary with your many counsels." Now, we have to understand very important information before we go on. This system that the scriptures refer as the Great Babylon, the harlot, it is a system that is a superpower, is exalted by many nations, is a young nation, is a young city, as a young nation, and also it has this system as far as how they run things. And remember this, in many other countries, many other cultures before, they have this system of how they run things. Nevertheless, Babylon is also, it has this democracy, as the scripture says in 47:13 of Yeshayahu. Babylon destroys its own land with contamination, pollution, and waste. If we notice, that, and it's very important because this information that I'm bringing right now, it is a very important information for us to understand, because here we have to think for a moment that when the prophet Yisra'il is speaking here on this, we will see the scriptures when it speaks about pollution and contamination. Remember, back in those days, there was no pollution, no contamination. This is a prophecy that way in the future. How did he knew? How did the Nabi or the prophet knew about this? About pollution? There was nothing around there back in those days. Yeshayahu 14:20, it says, "You have destroyed your land." You see that? You have polluted your land. You have destroyed your land. Back in those days, there was no pollution. There was everything clean. Everything is perfect back in those days. Nowadays is a whole lot of pollution everywhere. And believe me, as we see the characteristics of this great Babylon, we will get to know and find out exactly who the great Babylon is. Now, Yeshayahu 47:6, "Desecrated my inheritance, I gave into your hands." Here the Creator is referring as giving this system, this nation, inheritance of the land, my land, it says, "but you have desecrated, you have polluted this land." And believe me, remember that the whole earth doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the Creator. He is the Creator. He is the owner. We might get a deed for a land, but in reality, that's not your land or my land. That's basically the Creator's. We have no saying on this matter whatsoever. We're just basically leasing or renting from the Creator, because He is the owner of this land. So here we can pretty much say that it was given to as an inheritance, but they have desecrated, they have polluted this land. Now the question is, let us ask a question. As a Nabi or as an ancient prophet, how he knew about the pollution or contamination that did not exist in those days? That's a very important question, because remember this, back in those days there was no pollution whatsoever. Let's continue on. If we notice, then another thing that we have to take into consideration is that Babylon has the most powerful military force in the planet. Now, it is very important because, and I do want to mention something very important, that this system has a very powerful military force, whether we accept it or not. That is the truth. That's what the scripture says. And we'll find out who this great Babylon is. Why do I might bring this up? Is because we have to look at in every angle. Every angle is very important. If we don't know about these things, we don't know about the characteristics about these things, then we pretty much are ignoring these things, the reality of the situation of what the scriptures talks about. Look at what it says in Jeremiah 50 verse 23. "It is the hammer of all the earth." Babylon is considered the hammer of all the earth. It doesn't say many countries, it says the whole entire earth. The merchants of the earth have become rich because by making trade with this nation. And it is another characteristic, besides being powerful in military force, also it is powerful merchant. It is powerful making rich the entire earth by doing trade through this nation. Look at what Revelation 18:3 says. "Merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries." You see that? Luxuries. The entire earth has become rich because of her luxuries. In other words, because of this system, because of this country, this great harlot, nations around the earth have become rich. And once again, we are looking at these characteristics, how this great Babylon look like. It is becoming to have an image now. Now we'll be coming to have an idea who's this great Babylon is. Let's continue on. It says, does it begin to look like if we were talking about the United States of America? That's a very good question. And indeed, the portrait begins to get even more specific as we go along. She is exalted in all the earth in astonishment. It is very important for us to understand that the United States has become the most powerful superpower around the earth, and we cannot deny it. I live in the United States. I live in this nation, and I see every day all the great things that this nation has done throughout the years. And once again, she is exalted. This nation is exalted in astonishment and around the earth. Jeremiah 51:41, praise throughout the earth. That's what it says. Praise throughout the earth. The entire earth praises her, in other words. It is considered as the coastal nation with deep waters and a lot of international trade. Do you see that? It is a coastal nation with deep water and a lot of international trade. Now, once again, we are not talking about Iraq. That was an ancient Babylon. But once again, we are seeing the trace of this ancient system, not the land itself, but the system that is being passed on to another place. And let's just to recap, well, this is a coastal nation with deep water, a lot of international trade. Look at where Revelation 18:17 says, and all the captains of the merchants' ships and their passengers and their sailors. Do you see that? Jeremiah 51:13, or Jeremiah, you will dwell upon many waters, great in treasures. Do you see that? In other words, this great nation, United States, has many waters, many coastal places, and that's where all the trade comes in and out from every country around the earth. I live here in LA, and I see that every Thursday, like today's Thursday, there is a lot of international trade coming in and out. That's why we see a lot of trucks outside, because there is a lot of, from the St. Peter coast beach, that's where the international trade comes in, here in Long Beach. So there is a lot of ports that the international trade comes in, and there's a lot of reach that comes in and out, and without this there will be basically no revenue coming in. So that's a very important information for us to take in consideration. Look at what it says in Iraq. Take into account that today Babylon or Iraq has very little access to the ocean. If you look at here in circle, this is the little access that has to the ocean, and around it there is no access to anything at all. So it's very important for us to take in consideration that this is the Iraq today, which is the ancient Babylon, doesn't have any access through any ocean whatsoever. I'm sorry. So let's look at in Babylon has a unique and notable beginning. Let's continue on, because this is very important. Different from other nations, it has been frightening from its very beginning. And Yeshayahu 18 verse 2 says that. Now, United States is the first nation on that triumphantly came to be a form of an independent colonial empire. Remember that United States, when they became as a nation, it became to be one of the powerful nations around the earth, but it had its beginning. It has its beginning, and the beginning took upon its beginning from the separation from Great Britain. So it is very important to us to understand this very important trade. Now, of the British Empire, remember that the British Empire And the reason why I'm bringing all this from the very beginning is because we have to understand the very root of the United States and why the beginning of the origin of the United States. So the United States was the first nation that became independent colony from the British Empire. Now, the English language, as we speak, is spoken and is the offspring is the first British colonies. So once again, we see in a tray where is the origin. The origin is the British Empire, of course. So England is kind of like a mother to the United States, and that's a very important fact as well. Now, it is perfect description that gives Jeremiah 50 verse 12 says. Now, the royal symbol of England, see that, is a lion. And Jeremiah 50 verse 17 says that. So it's very important for us to take into consideration every single angle that the scripture tells us, see the trait, see the characteristics, and to see where is it pinpointing. Now that we've seen little by little this picture, now we understand who is speaking of. But let's get even better. We see in the next stop, the Nevi'im of the prophets prophesied that Babylon will be arrogant and proud, and that's a very important fact. Yeshayahu 47 verse 8, it says, telling yourself, I am important and no one else. Now, once again, United States is the same thing. It's very arrogant, and we can see that every step of the way. Let me give you a great example. When we watch the Olympics, isn't it that it is ironic that when everybody wants United States to win, and everybody gets upset if the United States doesn't win? And every time you see that, you see here on the pictures that everybody is rooting for the United States, and everybody wants the United States to be number one, and no one else is important. So once again, we're seeing every single trait about the United States being as the great Babylon, the harlot. Now we gets even better because we just see a little by little how the scriptures tell. Look at what Revelation says, 18 verse 7. In her heart she boasts, I sit enthroned as a queen. I am not widow. I will never mourn. Do you see that? In other words, nobody can touch me. I am important. Nobody is. I am the great, and nobody is. I am powerful, and no one else is. And that's how the United States has been, and it is until today, that it boasts in every single possible way, in riches, in military force, and every single thing that you can think of. It boasts in every single thing, in every single world that you can think of, in sports, in economy, in military, in every single thing. They boast about everything. So once again, we're seeing another trait how this Babylon is. It is the belief, deep-rooted belief that United States is different from others and better than others. And it is a very important thing to take note of, because once again, we see it every time that a United States wants to be first or better than anybody, and everybody is second. And we see that every step of the way. And we cannot deny it, because I live here in the United States and I see it every single time. We cannot deny this. We just cannot deny this. How the scriptures are so important. It's like a mirror for the future. We are literally looking at the future, the prophecy of the United States here through the scriptures. The same name Babylon, mystery, is profound because it's a mystery. It is very important. It is a mystery. Babylon was built by many immigrants or nations. Thus, Babel means mystery. And we have to understand this. This great nation of Babylon, aka United States, it was founded by immigrants. The only ones that are basically in a way, quote unquote, on this land is the Native Americans. The Native Americans. I don't call them Indians because they're not Indians from India, Hindu or India, but Native Americans, the Navajo and so forth. So they are pretty much the ones who were here before the pilgrims and immigrants came here. So in other words, this nation was founded upon many, many immigrants. So we've seen another trait that Babel, it is also a mixture because there is a lot of immigrants. We all are immigrants from this nation, and many tongues as well. Many tongues, many languages are speaking in this nation. Revelation 17:5 says, the waters you saw where the prostitute sits are, look at what it says, peoples, multitudes, nations, and what else? Languages. You see that? Where the prostitute sits. Now, you see that? Where this nation is sitting, that's where a lot of mixture is. A lot of nations, it's a lot of immigrants here, it's a lot of tongues and languages are spoken here. We cannot deny these, what the scriptures talks about this nation. Babel or Babylon is described as a woman. This is a very important clue. And ask yourself, what is the symbol of the United States? Let's ask yourself, what is the symbol of the United States? Since the prophet is describing this nation, this Babylon as a woman, ask yourself, what is the symbol of this great nation? And there is. Why is she called Babylon the harlot? She is. Do you see that? Where you see the liberty? See that? That's the symbol of the United States, liberty. But in reality, it's nothing but Ishtar, Astarte, Isis, Astarte, Diana, or the liberty demon, the goddess of the Aloha, of the fertility and sex. Once again, you're looking at nothing but a demon that is staying on the statue that is being standing there for a long time. And once again, those are important clues for us to understand that we're being engrossed with this idea that the United States is this perfect nation, but the reality that we are facing is the truth itself. Babylon the harlot, do you see that? Babylon the harlot. The number one in pornography around the earth is the United States. If you notice a chart here, hosting pornography around the earth is the United States. United States is basically the number one in pornography. That's basically where pornography, it's basically hosting mostly into the entire earth. And that's basically every single year. Revelation 18:3 says, for all the nations, do you see that, have drunk of the wine of the passion of her immorality, and the kings of the earth have committed acts, do you see that, of immorality with her. Do you see that? And it's, once again, we are looking at the mirror of what the prophet is basically speaking here of the future. We are living in the future. We are living what's actually what the prophet is speaking of there. And it's something that it is very sad at the same time, because we are living in this day and age. We are looking at with our own very eyes. We are living in this system that that even though we don't agree upon, but we have to trust in the Creator. These things happen for a reason, and we have to hang in there with the Torah. We have to open our eyes on the system, on this pagan system that you're living. We don't have to agree with this system. We just have to hang in to a Torah. We have to keep the Torah. We have to believe in the Mashiach that will return again to take care of business once again. So let's continue on. Mystery of the Babylon working now. In 2nd of Peter or Kepha 2:1, they will secretly introduce destructive heresies. And this is what's happening today. In Revelation 3:15-17, I know your deeds, that you're neither cold nor hot. Today, religion here, especially in the United States, is multi everything. You can see preachers always asking for money, always asking for nothing for greed and money. There's nothing about truth that they speak of. They only speak evil, they only speak lies, they only speak about only themselves, they only speak about their own interests, but not others. They never speak about repentance, they never speak about Torah, which is a more important thing. They only speak about the Greco-Roman pagan Christianity mind, and never about what the Torah speaks of, which is the truth. That's where it says they will secretly introduce destructive heresies. Heresy is basically when you depart from the truth, when you start getting to your own understanding, your own ways, you go astray into your own path, your interest because of greed and because of money and so forth. And this is what's happening today. And they're neither cold or hot. They're always in the middle. Revelation 17:3. Now, before we get into this, I want you to understand, please once again take notes. Take notes of this important teaching, live teaching. And what we are about to get into are a little bit, it's not confusing, but rather understanding. But all these clues are very important, and to understand the system that we're getting into. And believe me, this is shocking. As when I learned this is very shocking. You've seen this before. You see this on pictures, you see this on television, you see this on shows, and you never quite understand what's going on this day and age. But let's look first about this woman and to understand what we're about to see. So Revelation 17:3 says, then the angel, the Malach, carried me away in the spirit in the wilderness, and there I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast. You see that? A woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered by blasphemous names and have 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast have 7 heads and 7 horns. There was a woman sitting on this beast. Now this woman that Revelation speak of is the great harlot sitting on the beast. Very important indeed. Now this, on the left side you see the dragon on Revelation 12. Revelation 13 speaks of the beast. Now these two, one is different from the other, but at the same time one is given the power to the other one to do the same thing as the other one was doing. So here we're seeing the continuation of power to the next level. So once again, let's continue on. Revelation 12:3 says, then I saw another sign that appeared in heaven, an enormous dread dragon. Do you see that? With 7 heads and 10 horns, 7 crowns on its heads. Now we see a great dragon, a red dragon. It's not the beast, the red dragon that they have this characteristic. You have the 10 horns, 7 crowns. See that on his head. Now look at what it says, Revelations. You see, Revelations, now it says the beast. It says, Revelation 13:2, the beast I saw resembled a leopard, but have feet like those who are of a bear, a mouth like a lion. The dragon gave, you see that the dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and his great authority. Now this power was passed on from the dragon to the beast. Do you see that? This power was passed on from one to the other. This power was, the dragon that you see on the left side was passed it on to the beast, and it had the same power. It passed it on to the beast. Now this is very important because now we understand who is this great. We understand who's this great authority, this great power is. But remember, the dragon gave the power to this great beast. Now let's go into the next one. The 7 heads are France, Russia, China, the U.S., United Kingdoms, okay, the England, Scottish, Ireland. So these 7 heads are 7 kingdoms. Now look at what 13 of Revelation, verse 3, one of the heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but a fatal wound had been healed. And the whole earth was filled with wonder and followed the beast. Now this, one of the heads, suffered a wound. Very important, very important. In another time we will bring the Revelation 13 and 12 also about the prophecy of the 1260 days. That's another prophecy on itself, and that we will bring in the future. So many teachings, but we'll bring them in the orderly fashion. But here we see that this one of the heads suffered a great fatal wound, but the wound had been healed. Now, in Mussolini, if you notice here, Mussolini and Gervari signed a historical Roman decree or a covenant, and this happened in 1929, if I'm not mistaken. But here, before we go on, Constantine gave power to the papacy, and this happened in a time where where everything started all. This happened in 538 when the papacy takes over on behalf of Constantine, and this power took place between 1260 years. Between 538 to 1798, that's 1260 years, that exactly what the prophecy of Revelation and 12 and 13 speak of. In 1798, Napoleon takes prisoner Pius VI, which he took him, and the Pope died on that island. Now in 1920, that's where in 1798, that's where the scripture says that's why he suffered the great wound, that it seemed like it was fatal. The Vatican took this blow like it was fatal in 1798, but it was healed in 1929 when the Vatican signs and regains power, and his wounded was healed. Now it is very important for us to understand that all this, it happens for a reason, because all this, it's what look at what the New York Times says: the mortal wound healed. Speaking of the Vatican regaining power again in 1929. And if you notice another newspaper which says the healed wound of many years. You see that? So all this is prophecies. They were fulfilled to the very point. Here Mussolini and Gasparius are signing this treaty in 1929. But once again, we see that this power regains control in 1929 because it was wounded in 1798. Here we see prophecy after prophecy and after prophecy. All this has a lot to do with Mystery Babylon. We are looking at here more. We are looking at a little by little more about this great Babylon. But we have to see exactly who this great Babylon is. What's the relationship with the Vatican? Very important indeed. Now, once again, all this has a lot to do one with another. if you notice here in the Vatican, if you notice here in their sealed and also in their cathedrals, in the Vatican over there in Rome, you see that what do you see here? You see a great dragon. See, do you see the dragons here? Is the dragon that we're speaking of here? We are speaking the dragon, which is Hasatan. Hasatan. You see that? They themselves put their own seal on their own Vatican. And we are not making it up. I went to the Vatican for historical reasons, and I went there because I wanted to take pictures. I wanted to see what was in it so I can do my own research and do it for my own self to see that this is nothing but the truth. They are lies. They advertise themselves as the great beast, as we can see here. So here we can see the beast, this system that the Yohanan, the prophet, speak of. Now let's look at this Osiris, the eyes adorning a Catholic pulpit, Paris in France. You see the eye of Osiris here. Let's look another one. Eye pendant used by a group of young Catholics in the Philippines. Do you see that? The eye of Osiris here again. The eye of Osiris looking down the worshippers on the apex of a dome in the cathedral on Santiago on Spain. Do you see that? So once again, we've seen over and over again the Osiris eyes in a confessional cathedral of Milano, Italy. And we see it over and over again. What is this eye of Osiris is? We will see it very soon. Now you see that where it says the Pope called himself the representative of the Creator here on earth, which is in Latin is Vicarius Filii Dei. But remember, all these are, every Greek, Roman have his own number, and everything summarized to Vicarius is 112, Filii is 53, and Dei for Deus or Zeus or God is 511. The total of 666. The mark of the beast. You see that? The mark, not the harlot, not the prostitute, but the beast. You see that? The mark of the beast. Now we have to understand who's the beast and who's the harlot. We understand now who is the beast. The beast is the Vatican, and the harlot, the prostitute, is the United States. One is sitting on top of the other. One is sitting on top of the other one. Both of them are following the same system in a very special way. One is following is following the spiritual realm, which is the Vatican, and the other one is following the more like the literally way, which is everything materialism and everything. You can see it here in the United States with your own eyes. So both working. One is the false prophet, and the other one is the one who is making things for worse and worse. So very important indeed. Let's continue on. Vicarius Filii Dei, you can see it there, there's 666. Here the second is Latinus Rei Sacerdus, which is the king of the priest, Roman priest, is also 666. The sun, Sion, is also 666. Now you see how they advertised the Hasatan. You see all those are pointing out the horns there of Satan. See that? They themselves do it themselves, and not only themselves, but also we can see it as, let's look at what Revelation 13:5 says. The second beast was given power to give breath, do you see that? To the image of the first beast. So the image could speak and cause all the earth to refuse to worship the image. The image was to be killed. And it was forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark in the right hand and also on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. You see that the name of the beast or the number of the beast. This call for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is a number of a man. That is the number 666. Two clues very important here. First of all, the number of a man. Why the scriptures, why the Creator embedded this number of a man, 666? First of all, because man was created in the sixth day. That's the first one. What is the number of the Creator? It is 777 or 888. 888 is for infinite, is for Yahweh Sebaot, is for infinite. 777 is for creation, for perfection. And 6 is basically the day that man was created. In other words, one level less. In other words, what Psalms chapter 8 says, that you have made them a little bit lower than angels. In other words, you have made them imperfect. It's just a man. It's just immortal. So, in other words, what the scriptures is trying to tell you here is that the mark of the beast, the number of a man, is basically imperfect. He basically doesn't have any power whatsoever. It seems like he has power, but doesn't have any power whatsoever. The only one in control with power is Yahweh Sebaot. The only one. Men seem to have power today, but it's basically it's power of his own, but not the power of the Creator. And nothing was given to them unless the Creator has allowed them to have. Remember that. So, the Vatican, the United States, you see the similarities here? The Vatican has its own similarities as a Roman Empire. You see the U.S. Capitol has the same thing. If you notice, the similarities here are astonishing. And let's look at what the Treaty of Tripoli. Now, all this information that I'm bringing to you, please write it down. Don't believe what I'm saying. I know you will be watching this teaching, but please take notes of this. Search for it. All the information I'm bringing to you is for you to learn it, to search, do your own research. I'm very sure you will find even more. I just kind of summarize all the information that I do have, but because it's so much that I can only embed it very, very few moments. So here is the Treaty of Tripoli. The Treaty of Tripoli, it says here that if you notice a little paper here, I just put it in here so you can see it better. It says the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded in the Christian religion. In other words, in the Christian Hebrew religion. In other words, in the scriptures, in the Bible, what is called today, so you understand. So, in other words, what was this nation was founded for then? Let's look it up. Very important indeed. Thomas Jefferson said the United States of America was founded for Roman pagan. In other words, this, and it's very true, this nation was not founded in Hebrew mentality, Hebrew scriptures, Hebrew Bible people. This nation was founded for the Roman pagan gods. That's basically it. And why did I say that? It's because it's all over us. It's all over us. Look at what the $1. If you notice here is the Egyptian Osiris this eye of Osiris. You see that where it says, "In God we trust." What God is that? It's not the God of, it's not our Creator. That's for sure. It's not our Creator, Yahweh Sebaot. Is basically Satan. Is Osiris. Is Osiris. Is that's what they trust in, Satan. You see the sectogram here? Is all the 6 points here? That's Saturn here. Now this is just starting to begin. There is more to it, but if you see, notice here, the all-seeing eye is basically the eye of desires, and it's all over around us. We see it on TV, we see it on commercials, we see it all over. We just haven't seen it pay attention very closely. Look at what it says, and once again, what I'm about to bring right now, it is astonishing. We've seen it before, we just never put one and two together. But now we will see a full disclose into what our kids are learning by watching TV, by watching movies, by looking at books. Today, even in schools, they teaching this witchcraft, this pagan mentality that they're embedding into kids. Shalom, shalom. I'm back again. We had a little situation with the streaming, and we are back again. And as I was speaking before, today we are in. This is the second part, by the way. Okay, we had a little situation with the computer, but now that we are back, now let's start again. So this is the second part. Now, what I'm about to bring today is basically a situation where we are basically encounter, you and I and our kids and our families every single time. So please pay attention to what I'm about to bring, because this is very important indeed. Now, if you notice here today, Harry Potter, that is very, very popular throughout the years, they have of course this is taken off from book, but if you notice, throughout the years is being basically witchcraft, and the Illuminati today is being embedded in between it, because basically it's all about Luciferian mentality, which is worshiping Satan, in other words. But they put it in a very subtle way. Remember what Shaul says, that let's not ignore the devices of Satan. And the only way to introduce these things is through the kids. The kids learn all this witchcraft that you see the Illuminati all-seeing eye there. Now we see all over the music. We see how they become the eye, the Osiris eyes. All those are signs from that every single person worships. They worship these people. They have make a covenant with Satan in order today for them to make $60 million, $50 million, $80 million. They have to make a covenant, and that covenant has to be a blood covenant. Remember this, Satan is very copycatter. These people have to make a covenant. This blood covenant they have to make is by sacrificing somebody. That's why when you watch, this celebrity, you've seen these celebrities, somebody have to die in the middle of it, a family member and so forth, by any apparent reason. It's because they have to make a blood sacrifice that we can get into another time. So we can see here how these people made a covenant with the Luciferians, with the Illuminati, and this is what we are seeing here. Let's not ignore these things. All these people are very rich indeed, but they have sold their souls to Hasatan just for riches. You see that here? All this is the all-seeing eye. If you notice here on the right side is the Satan. See, they plainly put it right in front of you. See that? All the all-seeing eye. These people, they have sold their souls to Satan, to the Luciferian society, and that's what they do. They just for the money, for popularity, for being idols. You see that? All these are famous people that you and I seen for years and years, and they made, even for kids. Look at Nickelodeon. You see that way they put the all-seeing eye here. In concerts, they even put that on, right in front of you, in front of our own kids. Look at what it says look at what it says here in the all-seeing eye. They put it all right there behind the background, Even Disney, you see that 666, you see that in red, 666, is because they embedded right in front of our own eyes. In movies, we can see the all-seeing eyes here. We see that. In movies, we can see it every single time. It's subliminal messages that they send all the time, and it's not a lie. We see it every single time. Most of the movies, we see it. They put it out there. Looking for cartoons for kids. You see that? The all-seeing eye here. All these are famous cartoon shows that our kids are subliminal messages that are sending to our own kids. Once again, these are not lies. We see in all these things, we see it over and over again. We have to be careful about these things. These are very important things. Next up, let's look at the many products that people are consuming today. You see that Monster? Monster is, you see these are Hebrew letters. If you notice the Hebrew letter, the Hebrew letter, the wow, you see that here, 666, you see that? They put it right in front of you. Monster, do you see that? Right in front of you. Right in front of you. Now, they see the Chrome. You see that? It's 666. It's basically, we see it, we just never put very close attention to these things. Even Beats, they have made this deal. You see that? 666. They put that in there. In the TV channels, they also have the all-seeing eye there. We just never pay close much attention. Once again, every single channel has its own subliminal messages. CBS is saying the all-seeing eye here. Products. Once again, this is a great harlot. This is what they sell to us. This is what they put in front of our eyes, in front of our kids, in our family members. All of us, we all seen it. I mean, we just don't. Now that we are looking at these devices that Satan is putting here, now we are looking at now our eyes are getting open more and more. Preachers today, you see that? They put in this, all the preachers, the lying preachers, greeting lying preachers that you see on Sunday morning asking for money and getting people rip off. You see that always put their own sign. That's the three, you see that 666 right here, every single, the Satan's horn, all of them. They're all in the same boat. Revelation 13:5 says the second beast was giving power to the breath, to the image of the first beast. You see that? So that the image could speak and cause all to refuse to worship the image to be killed. You see that? It is also forced to people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive the mark in the right hand and also in the foreheads. Now this mark that the prophet is speaking of here could be either literally or spiritually. The spiritually, I understand that there is a law that is coming very soon that is actually they are passing, which is the Sunday law. The Sunday law pretty much is basically the understanding and the doing with your hand, understanding that that's the mark, and the doing. And they want the Sunday law to be enforced once again. In other words, they cannot work on Sunday, but they can work any other day, including Shabbat. And that's basically what they wanted. And also, literally in a very material way too, we can actually see it that they also trying to implement this chip in your hand that they want to embed so they can put the information, quote unquote. Now the original beast gave the power to the image. Do you see that? We can see pretty much that one is doing the other. We can see pretty much that the Vatican, what they did in the past, they want to implement that to United States, which is the harlot, basically, because one is doing the same thing as the other. Now, they enforcing these things. They remember that the Vatican is the image of the United States. Is basically doing the same thing. And once again, let's recap. In 538, the papacy took over the Constantine, and they give this power to through Constantine. They took power in 1798, which is between 538 to 1798. That was this basically this full power, which is called what is called today Dark Ages. And in 1798, it lasted for 1260 years. 1260 years when Napoleon took over, took as a prisoner Pius VI, which he died on that island, and that's where he took the blow that looked like a fatal wound. But in 1929, the Vatican regains power, and his wound was healed. Now, from that moment, from 1929, another reign of papacies to restart it. The first one was Pius VI. You see, Pius VII. See that? And once it started the next one, 5 more took off, and they died. The sixth one, you see that, was John the Pope, and the 7th was Benedict, which was short. He only ruled for a little bit. And the 8th, you see that, Francis, the last one. So here we see a full picture of what the scripture says. Revelation 17:10 says there are 7 kings. Do you see that? 7 kings. 5 have fallen. Do you see that? 1 is. Do you see that? And the other was not yet to come. When he come, he must remain for a little time. Do you see that? That's what we said earlier. 5, 6, 7, and the last one. Do you see that? He must remain for a little bit while. And the beast who once was and now is not, it is the 8th king. Do you see that? The beast is the Vatican. Do you see that? Is the 8th king. He belongs to the 7, and he's going to his own destruction. In other words, he is the one who's going to bring a lot of things to pass. A lot of things to pass. He's the one who wants to make one world religion. And this has happened last year, because he went to Jerusalem, and he gathered a lot of religions in Jerusalem because he wants to make one world religion. He's accepting homosexuals, he's accepting everything. He says everything goes, don't worry about it. We just want everybody to gather together. We want to make one world religion. See, what the Vatican, what this last Pope is doing is he wants to make one world religion. He's the false prophet. Do you see that? He's the one who makes things happen. So the United States can do his own work, because they're all working together. Remember that. They're all working together. One is sitting on top of the other one. The harlot is sitting on top of the Vatican. You see that? The beast. Now, 2 Thessalonians 2:3, let no man deceive you by any means, for the day shall not come except come a falling away first, and the man of sin, do you see that, be revealed, the son of perdition. Do you see that? The son of perdition, the anti-Mashiach. In other words, the word perdition means Apollos, a numerous academy and classified works identify Apollyon as the demon Apollo, or the Greek deity of the death and pestilence. So the son of perdition is what we see here in Revelation, what we saw earlier, where he says he's going to, when you see on blue, it says belongs to the 7, and he's going to his own destruction. The word destruction means perdition. That's what it means. So here we're seeing clues one after another one, and we clearly see here that is unfolding before our own eyes. Now, here in the United States, we can see pretty much that he has taken over Rome. And you see the image that Rome has. You see that? The same thing as Rome has, the same thing, because they have made buildings the same, similar as the Greco-Roman Empire. Do you see that? The capital is basically the same thing. You see that? Once again, this nation was not founded under any Hebraic Christian religion. This was basically a Roman Empire. Babylon Empire. The Statue of Freedom, do you see that? A demon. You see the fellows here? Basically what you see here, the obelisk here, is nothing but the male part. The male part is basically the Osiris penis, in other words. Is basically a male organ. You see that? And that's what they're worshiping. All these things is all pagan. It has nothing to do with the scriptures, nothing to do with the Hebrew belief or anything about the Bible ever. It's all about paganism that we see all over us. And we cannot deny it. It's right in front of us. We see on buildings, you see that? The pagan demons that they put in here is all embedded there. It's all in front of us. All the system, it's basically what they advertise every single time. And we cannot deny this because we live in this system. The coins that we see here is nothing but pagan demon gods and deities that they advertise, and it's been going on for many, many years. Now they see their buildings that they put upon, the same thing as the ancient Roman, same thing as Babylon. And you see the Supreme Court, the same as the Greco-Roman. Now if you see the hexagram here, you see that the pentagon, the pentagram, or the pentagram, you see that how it was made and built purposely for the worship of Osiris and also Satan. You see that? So that we cannot deny this. This is made by Luciferian system. You see that here when the medals in the army, you see that? This is the pentagram here. This is the devil. You know, it's something that we cannot deny this. I mean, we live in this system. We see it all the time. You cannot deny this system that we are living to. So it is very important that we are looking at these things. We are looking at this system that we are living every single time, and we just have to look upon these things. Look at what Revelation 18 verse 2. Now look at what the falling of Babylon is. Babel the Great is falling, and has become a dwelling place of demons, hunt for every unclean spirit, and a hunt for every unclean and hated bird. You see that? Now the destruction, whether we like it or not, it is already prophesied that Babel or Babylon will be destroyed. It is nothing I or you or anybody can do anything about it. It is already prophecy that will be fulfilled. Remember, Yahweh does not lie. He will fulfill to the very, very point, to the very detail. That's how Yahweh is. Revelation 18:8, her plague should come in one day, death and mourning, and a scarcity of food, and she will be burned up with fire, because Yahweh Almighty, who judges her, is mighty. Do you see that? Who's judging her is nobody but Yahweh Sebaot. He's the one who's sending a judgment towards this nation. The perversity that is become worse and worse as the day goes along, it is beyond imagination. Homosexuality has no limits now. Gay people, celebrities now, they're coming out like nothing. They have no shame whatsoever, and it's because the poverty has become like drinking water, and nobody really cares about anything. So that's what this judgment is coming upon them. Now look at what it says here in Yishayahu, Isaiah 47:5. Be silent and go in darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for no more they shall call you mistress of reigns. Do you see that? Even though this is a very powerful nation, but the time will come where the Creator said, you call yourself this, you call yourself that, but the moment will come where you'll be mourning. You'll be sitting in silence. You see that? Jeremiah 51:8 says, Suddenly Babylon has fallen and is broken. Wail for her, take balm for her pain, if perhaps she may be healed. And of course she would not be healed. The Creator has sent a judgment towards this harlot, this Babylon, and will not heal whatsoever. It will be left as a ruin, and it will be destruction completely. That's why I fear the most, because we live in this day, in this nation, and only the Creator is the one is our protection every single time. In Jeremiah 51:54, a sound of a cry from Babylon, a great ruin for the land of Chaldeans. Do you see that? It is undoubtedly that we cannot deny that the hour will come when Babylon will become a ruin. Revelation 18:8 says, her plague should come in one day, death and mourning and scarcity of food, and she should be burnt up with fire, because Yahweh the Almighty have judged her as He is the Almighty. And once again, those who live in the United States, and of course those who live around the earth, because remember, if United States falling, basically the entire earth will fall as well. That's no secret. I always advise people to save food. Buy food for 10 years or so. There's a lot of food that you can buy, that you can store for 25 years, and you can store it up. You can buy as much as you want for up to 1 year. You have to have a spends. You have to have a reserve food, because the time will come, whether we like it or not, that if plagues will come, death will come. Death will come, food will, scarcity of food will come. So you have to be prepared, because the prophet is already telling you that these things will have to come. There is no denial on that. Jeremiah or Isaiah 50 verse 46 says, at the sound of Babel's capture, the earth shall tremble. Do you see that? And a cry is heard among the nations. In other words, if Babel or Babylon falls, the nations will fall as well. They all mourn. They're all going to suffer as well, because everything comes from this point, from this nation, whether we like it or not. It is what it is. It is what the Scripture says. It is what the times that we're living to. We have to be very, very aware about these things. And we have to be aware about the Yahweh says through the Scriptures. We have to open our eyes. 47:5 of Jeremiah, Isaiah, sit silent and go in darkness. You see that? In one moment, this nation will become nothing. Now, the question for all of us is, who will cause the fall of Babylon? Very important question. Who will cause the fall of Babylon? Who will cause this? Isaiah 13:5. They come from the distant land, from the ends of the heaven, Yahweh and the weapons of His wrath, to destroy all the land. You see that? Of course, Yahweh is the one who allows these things to happen. Everything doesn't fall unless Yahweh allows this to. For anything, kings and kingdoms and so forth, Yahweh is the one who allows this. So here we see a little glimpse of what's going to happen to this nation. Who's going to bring destruction to this nation? We can see it here. They will come from a distant land. You see that? And Jeremiah 53, for a nation should come up against her from where? From the north. Do you see that? Which shall make her land waste, and none shall dwell in it. They shall flee, they shall go, both men and beasts. Do you see that? In other words, the falling of Babylon, their destruction is something that is undeniable. We cannot deny it. It will come. It will come whether we like it or not. It's nothing you and I can do about it. Yahweh already has set upon a judgment upon this nation. It's just nothing you and I can do about it. It's already written. Yahweh does not lie. So now it says here that the nation should come against her, for a nation should come against her. Who? Babylon. From the north. Now remember this. And now I thought about this verse, this text, and I said to myself, because I was thinking on the Greco-Roman Western mind for a moment, and I said, well, there's no north. It's only west, east, south. North is like Canada, but Canada is no power there. So I said to myself, okay, I wasn't thinking on the prophecy, on the scriptures. So remember this, you need to change your mind to the Hebraic mind, which is the prophets seeing these things. So we need to change our minds. Why does it say the north? If United States is here, why does it say the north? We are getting there, but let's look at another verse. Jeremiah 59 or Jeremiah 59. For look, I am stirring up and bringing up against Babel an assembly of great nations from a land of the north. You see that? A land of the north again. And they should come array themselves against her, for there she shall be captured. Their arrows are like those who are mighty skilled men that not returning empty-handed. What are we talking about here? We are talking about superpower that will come against her. A super mighty power. Who has the most, another power besides the United States? We will find out soon, but we see that the arrows that are talking about here, we are talking about that we are looking at about missiles here. Nuclear missiles here. Could be any nuclear missile, or could be any other kind of bomb that will disassemble United States. So we have to take into consideration who is around in the north. This is a big question. Who's in the north? Now we are looking at here in the Hebraic mind. If you notice the south, the United States here, but if you keep looking north, it will look in the other side, which is Russia. Russia is on the north. You see that? We are looking at not in the Greco-Roman mind, but we're looking at it in the Hebraic mind, how the prophet was looking at the north. You see that? So the north of the United States is Russia. If you keep going north, it will give you Russia. Exactly. If you just please look at the atlas or the Google Earth, it will give you Russia. Russia is the one in the north. Daniel 11:4 says that the end of the time should come, the conflict with the kings of the south, and the king of the north should come against with chariots. Do you see that? And with the horsemen. Do you see that? And with ships. And they should enter the land and should break in pieces and pass on. This nation of Russia will come with a great power, okay, with missiles, with armament, with ships, with boats, with airplanes, with everything you can think of to destroy this nation. And Daniel 11:36, and he should do according to his own will, referring to Putin. Putin, if you notice, he can do whatever he wants. Nobody can tell him anything. He's doing according to his own will. By the way, before Trump took over, he was already ready to go war against the United States, and he was sending. If you notice, please look at the interviews with him when he was addressing to United Nations, and he was literally saying that he was sending one hand to another hand. He was sending warnings and warnings, but they were not listening. He says, "I'm just about to send the World War III to the United States," but did not happen because of Trump. But it doesn't mean that that's going to end. It will happen again. It's just a matter of time. And because we can see the newspapers through the scriptures here, the future of the newspapers. You see that? Revelation 14:9 says, "And the third messenger followed them, saying with a loud voice, If anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives his mark upon the forehead and upon his head, he should drink of the wine of the wrath of the Almighty, which is poured out undiluted into the cup of his wrath, and he should be tortured and with fire and sulfur before the set apart messengers and before the Lamb. Now, all these things are going to take place. All these things will take place, whether you and I can do anything about it. All we got to do is return to Torah. Our Almighty is our own protection, in other words. These things will have to come in this day and age. And one thing I can say is that we rather be in the side of the Almighty. If they start implementing these chips and this mark and so forth, beat it. But we have to be faithful. We have to be faithful to the Creator until death, because He's the one who's going to protect us all. If we don't take care of business, believing on the Creator, that He's the Almighty, then we will be pretty much in the other side, which is in the side of the beast. So we have to take this in consideration. John 20:31, but these have been written so that you believe that Yahushua is the Mashiach, the Son of Yahweh, and that believing you might possess the life for by His merits. You see that? All these things have been written so we can have faith. We have been firm with the Creator. We're firm with the Torah. That's why we have to learn Torah. We have to read Torah. We have to search the Torah every single time. So we have this firm in the Creator, that He is our Creator and He's the one in the throne and control, and nobody else is. So look at what it says in 16:33. These words I have spoken to you, that in me and you might have shalom. In the world you have pressure, but take courage, and I have overcome the world. You see that? The Mashiach overcame this system back in those days. The same system, even worse, is coming upon us, and we are living in this system, this pagan system. But we have to take note of that we have to overcome this world. The only way that we can overcome this world is through the Torah, through the strength of the Mashiach towards us. Ephesians 6:11, put on the armor of Yahweh, for you are able to stand against the strategies of the devil. Do you see that? For our conflict, it is not in the flesh or blood. Do you see that? Flesh or blood. But in the principalities and with those in authority. Do you see that? Principalities in authority, and with the possessions of the dark world. Do you see that? And with the evil spirits are beneath the heavens. All this is working right now. Principalities, those with authority, possessions in dark worlds, demons and so forth, through the movies and so forth, with shows and everything you see, the evil spirits are beneath the heavens. That means they are working today around us. There is no way we cannot deny this, because we see it every single day. Isaiah 41:10, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not gaze up, for I am your Almighty. I will make you strong. I will help you. Yes, I will uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. What's the right hand of the Creator? The Mashiach. The Mashiach is the one upholding us. We need to be faithful. You need to be firm what you have believed. There's a lot of things going on out there. The only one who can hold strength is Yahweh. Our Mashiach is our strength, that giving us this example that He was also lasting unto the very end, so we can. So we need to take in consideration all these little things. So Luke 12:5, but I should show you whom you should fear. Fear the one who, after killing, possesses authority to cast on Gehenna. Yeah, I say to you, fear him. Who's the one who can throw, the only one in Gehenna, on the lake of fire? Is Yahweh. He's the one who can throw anybody into the lake of fire. Do not fear if they kill you, they kill my mother, you can kill everything on me. But the one that you have to fear is the one who can cast the soul into the lake of fire. That is Yahweh. That's the only we can fear. Satan has nothing on this. Rapha'Yah, almost closing, 10:28. Do not fear those who kill your body but are unable to kill the being or the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both being and or the soul and the body and the Gehenna or the lake of fire. Yahweh is the only one that can take care of that. We come to an end, brothers and sisters. We have to understand who this great harlot is. We understand who's this great system that we are living to. Whether we like it or not, we are living in this great harlot, this mystery Babylon. We are seeing it. We are watching through the movies. We are looking at when we gaze the radio and so forth. It's all around us. We have to take into consideration these are the latter days. Therefore, we need to hang into the Torah. We have to hang into this purity of the Torah that is for you and I. We must come back to the Yahweh Sabaoth. He is our only chance. Our Mashiach is our only chance for us to last unto the very end. If we don't have our Mashiach unto the very end, we have no salvation. We have no salvation. We must find our Mashiach so we can learn Torah. We can go back to Yahweh. We have to. It's our last call. If we don't do that, we'll be trapped in mystery Babylon. Thank you, brothers and sisters. I'm Moreh Rapha'Yah, and I will be bringing more teachings. For this Shabbat teaching, be aware that we are bringing this Shabbat teaching again, and it will be a great teaching, a great parasha that is coming soon. So I'll be posting it very, very soon. Shabbat Shalom to all of you. Once again, I'm Moreh Rapha'Yah, and we'll see you back again. Shalom.
Adat Netzer Yisra'il presenta